Hey everyone. I'm gonna walk you through the factoring day two, um, factoring with the leading coefficient stuff. Hopefully, you've watched the video that's in the slides, give you an idea. I'm gonna go through guess and check, and I also have an interesting way to factor these that I'll show you. See if you like it, see if you remember it. For the warm up, we look at 28 and we think what two numbers multiply to 28 and add to 11. Those two numbers are 7 and 4. So that's the factoring there. For number 2, what two numbers multiply to negative 60 and add to negative 4? 60's got a lot of factors. 6 and 10 are 4 apart though. The 4 being negative, that would be negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4. Negative 10 times 6 is negative 60. So those are our two factoring numbers. So we get v minus 10 times v plus 6. Okay, so what do we do when we have a leading coefficient? We're going to kind of do something similar here. With the video, you've seen how we do this, but we're going to kind of set up our two groups, and we're going to think about the first and the last terms, and we're going to think about what we multiply to get each of those. So when we think about 2n squared, what two things can we multiply together to get 2n squared where everything is basically nice numbers? That has to be 2n and n. Has to be. And now, to fill in the rest of our factoring, we're going to look at this minus 9. And we think to ourselves, what numbers can we multiply to get negative 9? Well, it's going to be 1 and 9, and one of them's positive, one's negative. Or the only other factors of 9 are 3 and 3. And again, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. Here's the thing. Now it is time for you to guess and check. And this is where being able to multiply in your head is going to make this nicer. We're going to take 2n and we're going to be multiplying it by whatever number's right there. We're going to be multiplying this n by whatever number's right there. And we have to get 3. We have to get this middle term for our 3n. Another way sometimes people write this is they kind of get boxes. And we have 2n squared, we have minus 9, and we're thinking to ourselves, what do we need to multiply to make these other two boxes add up to 3? If you can do some multiplying in your head, if we were to choose the 3's, 2 times 3 will give us 6, 3 times n will give us 3n, so 6n and 3n. That is going to be off by 3. Maybe I should just start with some wrong answers first in case. What if you wanted to guess 1 and 9? So 2n, what if you didn't even know which sign would be where? I mean, it doesn't quite matter. Oops, I wanted to put a 9 there. It doesn't quite matter. But I want you to kind of run through these multiplications in your head. 2 times 9 is 18. 1 times 1 is 1. We have an 18n and a 1n. No matter what signs, plus, minus, I put in either spot, we're not getting 3. We look at the next one. 2n times 1, that's 2n. 9 times n, that's 9n. 2n and 9n. Can't add or subtract those to get 3n either. So it's got to be the 3's. In this case, the 3's. Now, you got to figure out which one needs to be the positive, which one needs to be the negative. 3n, 2 times 3n is 6n. Or maybe I go back to our factor looking and put the 3's in there. We have this 2n times 3. We have this 3 times n. So we're going to have a 6n and a 3n. We want a positive, so the bigger number has to be positive. So the thing that gets 6 needs to be positive. The thing that's smaller is going to be negative. So there's our factoring. 2n minus 3, n plus 3. We're going to do guess and check for the last one. Then I'm going to have another way that maybe you like, maybe you don't. 3n squared minus 8n plus 4. I look at the very first term, 3n squared. The only way we're getting 3n squared if we multiply two nice terms is 3n times n. Now we look at 4. What are the factors of 4? It's 1 times 4, it's 2 times 2, or they can both all be negative, not, I guess both works too. Or they can, both numbers can be negative. And in fact, you see this negative in the middle here? If we're getting this to be negative, these both have to be minuses. And then again, now we're just thinking. Kind of guess and check here. If you don't know, being able to multiply and add in your head does help. 3n times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 1 times 3. N is negative 3n, negative 12n, negative 1, negative 12n, negative 3n, that's negative 15. Too big. We can flip spots. Oh, folks, what am I doing? Stop, Mr. G. N minus 4, duh. Negative 12n, negative 1n, negative 13n. Still doesn't work. If I flip-flop the spots for the 4 and the 1, negative 3n when I multiply those, negative 4n when I multiply those, add those together, it's negative 7n. Very close, not what we're looking for. With the 2's, what's nice is that they're the same number. Can't really mess up putting those in spots. This 3n times this negative 2 is negative 6n. This negative 2 times n is negative 2n. Negative 6n plus negative 2n is negative 8n. So there is our factored form, 3n minus 2 times n minus 2. Okay. Let's go back, and I'm going to show you a trick. I don't always like teaching tricks, but I learned this in high school, and I often will use this to help me factor. So if you're curious, stick around. If you're not, you and your partner can work on the Jamboard just like we did yesterday. How my trick works is you take the leading coefficient, you multiply it to the last number. Now you can factor this thing as you normally would with a leading coefficient of 1. What two numbers multiply to negative 18 that add to 3? In this case, that is n plus 6, n minus 3. Now here's the trick to how to do this. When you're done with this step, you have to divide the numbers that you got by that leading coefficient, that a value that you had at the start, and then you have to simplify. If you happen to have a fraction left over in one or both, at this point you take the bottom, the denominator of that fraction, and you move it in front of the n. And if you look at what our answer was from the first way we did it, the guess and check method, you'll notice that mine matches that exactly. I'll do it one more time, again, just in case you were interested. Ooh, I don't know what I just did there. So how this works is we take our thing that we're trying to factor. Sorry about the handwriting. We're going to take that 3, we're going to multiply it to the last number. We got n squared minus 8n plus 12. Using your factoring skills, that factors to n minus 6 times n minus 2. Now at this point we have to divide both numbers by that leading coefficient, which is 3. Simplify. If you have a fraction left over, you take the denominator, you move it in front of the variable, and you will notice that we get the same answer. So I'm happy to explain that a little bit more when I return. But yeah, that is factoring, guessing, and checking. It is a lot, or how do I say this? You get good at factoring by being solid with your multiplying and your adding. Takes a while, it takes practice, especially if you're not comfortable with those things. So guess and check is how we're going to be working on this, because that's what you're going to do in Algebra 2 when you get to this factoring stuff. So practice, 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 work with your partner, get that Jamboard done. I will be checking that this weekend. Have a good one, everybody.